As promised this morning, we have a very special guest joining us. We call it a Pulaski County Sheriff Takeover. And joining us live in the studio this morning is our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins. Sheriff Higgins joined us on last Friday in our Pulaski County Sheriff Update. We weren't able to get everything done because there's been a lot in the news about the latest Unlocked, which is coming April 10th to Netflix. And it's a series. 46 inmates in our Pulaski County Jail that were left unguarded to see if they could manage themselves. And there's been a trailer that's released. And when the trailer came out, that's when everybody started talking. And we heard from our County Judge Barry Hyde saying that he's gotten calls from people saying this could possibly be another Banging in Little Rock and shed a bad light on our community. And basically, he didn't sign off on it or anything like that. And so Sheriff has been in to kind of talk a little bit about it. And as we talked on Friday, Sheriff, you mentioned that, and welcome to the studio, Sheriff. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come and talk with us this morning.
Appreciate it.
All right. But you mentioned on Friday that initially, he did know a little bit about this. You
Right.
kind of talked with it, but you also talked with the county attorney. So what made you actually, when you were approached about doing this special series and documentary, what was the motivating factor to make you want to do this?
Well, first of all, the production company reached out to me, and they have been paying attention to some of the things we're doing at the county jail, our reentry program and other community programs we're doing. So they reached out to me and asked me, would I be interested in doing something related to looking at how the jails are in America? Can we do something different? And I explained to them I wasn't interested in any show, just a program for program's sake. But what could we do that could go beyond their time with us? What could we do that could change the facility? And so we started having those conversations about long-term projects and their ability to document the process, what we were doing. And so that was the beginning of our discussion. Then I reached out to the county attorney and verified that what I do know is that I have custody of the jail as Pulaski County Sheriff. I have custody of that facility, and I control who goes in and out of that facility. And I confirmed that I had control to allow a video crew or company to come in and video in the facility, just like I do when I invite the news media to come in for when we got new locks to record the locks or our graduations from events. So I have control. I have the ability to allow people to come in. So the attorney was aware of it. The judge was aware of it. I did not go the process of a contract. I know that if we go the route of a contract, the county judge has to sign a contract. I made that clear with the production company that I was giving them access, and so we worked on a location release that I could do to allow them in there and have an understanding of what we were trying to do. And I want to point out that we didn't violate any jail standards to do this production. We were looking at one thing. The county jail is one of two jails in the state that's direct supervision, where a deputy is inside the pod with the detainees. So there's 80 people in the pod. The deputy's desk is inside that pod with them. And some of those barracks or those pods are open, where there's just bunks along the walls. Others, they have internal cells as well. So we were looking at, could we move to a indirect supervision, like most jails are, moving the deputy out or building a structure inside there to separate the deputy from the detainees. And one of the options were the cheapest option is to move them outside of that, outside the pod into another area with video cameras to absorb what's going on. And so that was part of that process, and that's what we were doing there. But it was more than that. It's having conversations with the detainees, letting them understand, have some responsibility and for their actions. I believe when you do that, you can create a safer facility. This is their community,
right?
And they're going to be there. They're still in jail, and there's still some restrictions, but if they understand that they can have a positive impact on their environment, I think that they'll take the steps to do that. And I think in the end, that's what was done.
We're talking with our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins. If you haven't heard, there's a Netflix series called Unlock. It's scheduled to premiere on Netflix April 10th, and it's about our Pulaski County Jail, where 46 inmates were left unguarded to see if they could manage themselves. And Sheriff, now you mentioned that this experiment that they were doing was kind of tied into the reentry program, and that's a big thing for you. Talk a little bit about why it's so important and why you believe so much in this reentry program that you've been trying to implement.
Sure. The state prisons have programs to help people in prison come out. They have reentry programs. And I believe we need to have that at a county level. My experience after I retired from Little Rock Police Department, I spent 4 years volunteering with a reentry program, helping people come out of prison to be successful. And I believe that you need that at a county level. Listen, people go to county jail, 80% of them are released to our community. Mm-hmm. I don't think we need to wait till someone gets more serious charges and spend 20 years in prison before we try to help them to reacclimate to the community. A lot of people have mental health issues. They have drug addiction issues. They have trauma issues, post-traumatic stress issues. And I think if we can help those individuals while they're in the county jail, and then wherever they go, they'll be a better person. They'll be better able to acclimate themselves to our society and become a good citizen, being able to get the jobs that they need. We want to stigmatize people. We want to say that if you have a felony record, that's all you are is a felon. And we keep people from moving forward. And I think that we have to help these individuals. And our reentry program, we started in 2019, and we have a 5% recidivism rate. That's 5% compared to the state's 48% recidivism rate. We have support from all the circuit court judges, the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office. They recognize what we're doing, and it's not because I'm running and on the hilltop and shouting what we're doing. It's the reason we have a good reputation is because of our students, the detainees who have left our facility from our reentry program, and the success that they have.
Okay. All right, we're going to be back to talk more with the sheriff this morning about the documentary that's coming up, the Netflix Unlock series that's coming up, as well as this experiment that was done in our Pulaski County Jail. And we're going to talk a little bit about some other things that the sheriff is responsible for under his watch there, and we're going to talk more about this reentry program. So all of that's still coming up here as he's going to hang out with us until about 8:20 this morning, and we'll be talking and answering some of the questions. So if you've got some questions that you want to know about and some questions that you may want to ask, you can give us a call, 501-381-0923. Sheriff, again, will be hanging out with us for about a little over an hour here, so you have time to call us. But we'll be talking more about the 911 call center and more things that the sheriff is trying to get done in our Pulaski County Jail as well as in Pulaski County. So all that's still coming up. If you've got a birthday or anniversary, now's the time to hit us up. 501-381-0923. Or if you've got a question, you can, same number, 501-381-0923. Keith, we got birthdays and anniversaries coming up next. Welcome back. We are talking with our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins, and we get the sheriff every other Friday, and we call it our Pulaski County Update. And we talk about things that are going on in Pulaski County. And one of the things that's happened is last week we got breaking news. There's a trailer that came out on a Netflix special, a Netflix series called Unlocked, and it's scheduled to premiere on Netflix April 10th. It's a series that shows 46 inmates in our Pulaski County Jail left unguarded, and they're left unguarded to see if they can manage to take care of themselves. And it's an experiment again. And our sheriff has talked with us, and he said that this has a lot to do with the reentry program and doing research and study on how we can get people back into society. And Sheriff, you came into this office with a number of new ideals, and you've been doing a number of things and helping a lot of people. And one of the big things is this reentry. And we just finished. We talking about that, and one of the things you said is we have it for prisons, but especially for people that get out of the jail, they need that same support unit around them to help them get back into society again. For some reason or other, I thought that they probably did, but I had no idea that they didn't. But if you would talk a little bit about that's one of your ideals. But you came into office and you've kind of implemented quite a few new things. Some people have embraced them. Some things have been very challenging for you. So talk about some of the things that you have done that are really working for you, that and some of the things that somewhat are a challenge for you right now. And I know mental health has been one of those things that you really have been trying to get more support on.
Right. One of the things when you're dealing with law enforcement, we have to have a strong relationship in our community. And so we have to focus on our community. And that's been one of my big things is that how do we build relationships in the community? During the pandemic, we worked with the food bank, AT&T, Arkansas, other organizations to put food packs in our patrol cars, non-perishable food, 3 days worth of food service or foods, and we gave it to people that we saw a need to, whether we're responding to a call or saw someone homeless that needed food. We also worked with Advance Auto to get these gift cards, $25 gift cards. We stopped someone who had a tail light out, headlight out. Instead of writing them a ticket, give them a gift card so they can buy the bulb. It's about safety. We have to. I think it's so important in law enforcement. It's not just making arrests. We're going to make arrests. We're going to write tickets. But what are the issues in our community? What are the partnerships that we can build in our community to address the issues that lead to criminal activity? And that's what we've been focusing on. Youth program, the junior deputy program. That's something that was initially started in the 40s with Sheriff Gully to work with kids in the community. And I relaunched that and added the OK program to that we have got to work with our kids in the community. That is a high priority that we build those relationships and help those kids deal with the stressors that they have, the conflict that they see. We've got to have a good reentry program. 80% of people that are booked in our jail release to our community. And I think it's important to help them deal with their issues. Listen, if their real issue is addiction and they're breaking into cars because of their addiction, if you don't address the addiction issue, they're going to continue down that road. And we have to do that. I think if you look over the years, when you had people, when crack came out, it was, my God, it was so dangerous and people stealing from their families, lock them up. Meth was the same thing, but opiates come along and we sue in pharmaceutical companies. We understand addiction is serious, and we have to help those who have addiction. And our reentry program does that. We have partnerships in the community. We have volunteers that come in, and I have over 90 men in our reentry program. We have a separate unit for our men and women reentry units. I could expand that if I had more classrooms. Wow. If I had more space to provide more services. Plastic Tech comes in and teaches a Future Fit program, helping people to go to work, giving them some job skills. We could do more if we had more space. Our jail is 30 years old. It's dealing with infrastructure issues, structural issues that we're trying to have assessed now. I think it's important that we create an environment where people can come back to our community, that we can help them deal with some of the trauma that they're dealing with. And our program is, like I said, we have a 5% recidivism rate. It works. We have to invest in our people. I think it's a better investment to help them to come back to society instead of having them just continue to go to jail and get more and more serious charges, and you have more victims in your community.
One of the things you said you were concerned with, and the reentry program is working. You're seeing that, but one of the things you're working on, you don't have yet, is mental health. Talk a little bit about how important that is, and what are you trying to get done with that?
Mental health is so important. You read studies, you hear people talk about, jails are full of people who have mental health issues, and they don't need to be in jail, and that is absolutely true. After I became sheriff, we looked at the people in our jail. We looked at the issues where people are trying to commit suicide and all those things. We have 4 mental health professionals. This jail is built for 1,210. We average 1,300 people in this jail. We process 14,000 people were booked in the county jail last year.
Wow.
14,000 people. How do you manage those individuals? And not everyone comes in and will tell you on the front end that I'm suffering from mental health issues. I've been diagnosed. There's several that have not been diagnosed. They have dual diagnosis, whether it's drug addiction and mental health issues. And we don't have the staff to properly monitor that. And 2 years ago, I went to the quorum court during the Recovery Act money. The county got something like $76 million.
Wow.
And I asked for money to fund increased mental health service for 3 years. Now, that wasn't the plan I came up with myself. I worked with our medical provider in the jail to determine what we really needed to address the issue. I went to the quorum court, asked for the money. They had the money, and I was told no. One JP said they didn't want to spend the money on people in jail. They want to spend it on their constituents. That confuses me. Another one said, I don't want to spend one-time funds. So last year I went back. We had a new contract for our medical services, and I put in the contract what we needed for mental health. Judge signed the contract. We go to the quorum court, ask for the funds. The comptroller tells the JPs, the quorum court, that we have the funds. And I could not get enough votes to provide the funds for mental health service. I do have some support on the quorum court, but not enough. There's people who just refuse to provide the services. I don't know if it's anger, how they feel about people in our jail, but this is a liability issue.
Right.
If we don't provide the services that we know we need in there, it's no different than providing the service for someone who has high blood pressure, who has heart condition. We do that, and we have to provide the service for mental health. I'm going back to the quorum court again this year, and I'm going to ask for money. Another way of paying for it. We have vacancies in our detentions in our staff. And through those vacancies at the end of a budget year, that money goes back to the quorum court and general fund. So it's almost $3 million from our vacancies that are going back to the quorum court and going back to the general fund. And I'm going to ask them this year, let me have some of that money for mental health services to finish out this contract. It's only about $600,000 a year to provide this, maybe close to $7 million. But for mental health services, and this is money that's not in the current budget. It's money from last year that is going to rolls over into this year's budget. And I'm going to ask for that money for that. Not only for that, but for food services. We know the food service has gone up, and we have a new contract, and the JPs is about $600,000 more. Everybody knows food has gone up, and we have to feed the detainees in the facility. And I've had a JP to say, I don't care, they can eat bologna sandwiches every day. And that's the wrong attitude. And that person voted against providing additional funds and tells me that I just need to find the money in my budget to pay for that. And, I don't understand the attitudes of some of the JPs. These are things that need to be done. I'm responsible for that jail. I'm responsible for the care of those individuals in that facility. But I can't provide the services without the justice of the peace, without the quorum court providing the funding that I need. I know it costs money, but it's our responsibility.
People listening to the show this morning, and they definitely believe in what you're saying about the mental health. Is there anything that the public, when we start talking about our justice of the peace, and they're in the county with about 15 of them or so, do people need to talk with their judges of the peace?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think they need to hear from the people in the community. They don't mind telling me no. They don't mind saying, no, Sheriff, we don't want to provide that. But I think people in the community need to call their JPs. You can go online, look up Pulaski County government. They have the list of JPs. They have phone numbers. Reach out to them and tell them this is important. I do not understand why we will not pay for mental health services that are needed in the facility. They will jump up and down and give money to the crisis stabilization unit, which is outside our building, and I 100% support that facility. But you've got to provide the services to the people in the jail. And 80% of the people, 90% of the people in the jail are not convicted.
Right.
There's probable cause to make an arrest, and they're being held in the jail. But even if they were convicted, we still have an obligation to provide the medical services that they need, and we currently do not have the funding to provide the medical service that is needed. We have 4 mental health professionals. When the contract was signed, we boosted up to 10, and when the quorum court decided not to fund the positions, we lost those 10 positions.
Wow.
People lost their jobs. They didn't work for the county; they worked for the medical provider. But we're not providing those services, and it impacts the facility. When a deputy sees someone who's having some issues, you want to be able to have a mental health professional that can go reach out and talk to them before you end up having a fight, before you end up having someone trying to harm themselves.
All right. Again, we're talking with our Pulaski County Sheriff, and that is Sheriff Eric Higgins, about things that are happening in our county here, Pulaski County, and things that are happening in our Pulaski County Jail. There's going to be a Netflix series coming out April 10th, and it's about our Pulaski County Jail. We're going to be back to talk more with the sheriff. If you've got any questions or concerns that you want to leave with us, go to our text club, 501-381-0923, to drop your questions for the sheriff. That's 501-381-0923. We are honored this morning to have our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins, joining us. We do what we call the Pulaski County Sheriff's Update every other week, and it got very, very interesting on last Friday, and we weren't able to cover everything as the sheriff talked about the Netflix series Unlocked, scheduled to debut on Netflix on April 10th. It's a 6-part series highlighting 46 inmates in our Pulaski County Jail that were left unguarded to see if they could manage themselves. And it's an experiment. The sheriff says it kind of goes along with his reentry program that's working pretty good here in the county. But Sheriff, you said it hasn't been an easy ride for you in getting some of these things done. And I said this, and I say this all the time. If you don't know, I want people to know this, that Sheriff Higgins, he doesn't say this, but he is a minister, so he does a lot of things with a holistic approach, and most of the things that you've done since you've been there have been kind of with that thought of trying to help people once they got out and getting back in the system, and especially when it comes to the reentry program, getting people out, getting people started. And I don't think sometimes people know how difficult it is to start your life over once you get out of the prison or the jail. And I really didn't think about it. You said that there are reentry programs once you get out of prison, but really, if you get out of jail, it's kind of like, here's your stuff, see you. Right. You know, so talk a little bit about that. And your program is kind of trying to help people get back on their feet again, and real good.
Right. I think we need to, the state programs are good where they're trying to help people come out of prison. They may spend 5-10 years in prison and they're trying to come back out. But I think you got to do that as a county level. Majority of people that go to a county jail are going to be released to our community. 80% are coming back to the community. So if we know that we can give some people some tools, help them deal with addiction, help them deal with trauma, help them cope with some mental health issues, give them the resources not only while they're in the jail, but connections when they leave the jail, it increases their chance of success. And I think, a lot of times what people do, they get mad about that. That you're cuddling people or whatever. They're still being held accountable. Mm-hmm. The prison system's, what it's supposed to be is to rehabilitate, hold people accountable, and rehabilitate them to function in society. And that's what we are doing, is helping people to come back to the society. If you're going to label someone a felon for the rest of their life and not let them get housing, not let them get a job somewhere, how are they supposed to provide for themselves legally? And so we have to address those issues. We have to stop being mad at people, right. Hold people accountable for their actions, but help them to come back to the community to be successful. If someone's doing burglaries to support their drug habit or their addiction, they're just going to come out and continue to break into houses, into cars. If you can help them deal with that addiction, overcome that addiction, then they're not going to break into my house. And we'll have less victims out there, and you'll have a safer community. So we have to change the way we're doing things. We have to help people coming back to our community. And if you do it at a county level, there's issues here where, the state's building, I think 3,000 more beds in prison. Yeah. I guarantee you those are going to fill up, and they're going to fill up quickly because there's been other issues, there's been other laws that are passed. The sentencing where some people are going to do 90%, 100% of their time. Yes. Well, that's going to cause a backup in the county jails because people are going to wait and go to trial instead of pleading out to 40 years when they know that means you're going to spend 40 years in prison as opposed to going to trial and getting life. You're going to spend that time. So there's going to be a backup in county jails. We need to reduce the number of people in the jail, reduce the number of people coming back to jail. And I think if we have a strong reentry program at a county level, I think what you'll see is a reduction in people going to state prisons. because they're becoming acclimated to the community. They're dealing with their issues, whether it's mental health, whether it's drug addiction, or other trauma issues. You're helping them with that, and you're creating partnerships with people who will give these individuals jobs and give them opportunities.
I don't think you were concerned about, Sheriff, was a 911 call center, and I don't know if the public actually knows what's getting ready to happen with the 911 call center. There's one house actually at the jail.
Right. We have a 911 center there. What they're called PSAPs is what they're called throughout the state. And a couple of years ago, 2019, the state passed a law saying that that they want to reduce the number of 911 centers throughout the state. And the purpose of it is to try to eliminate some of the transfer of calls. Okay. In Pulaski County, you have the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, you have Little Rock, North Little Rock, Jacksonville, Maumelle, Sherwood, all have 911 centers. And so the county has been asked to reduce the state is telling us to reduce to 3 911 centers. Little Rock is going to stand alone. Maumelle and Sherwood's going to join with North Little Rock, and they're working on another location for those 3 centers to operate in the same building. We were working with Jacksonville. Now, the responsibility for the 911 centers, ultimate responsibility in where they're who controls it, would be considered the county judge or the mayor. Now, the 911 center has been at the sheriff's office for probably 50 years. Right. And we were working with Jacksonville to figure out how do we come together. There's a difference in salaries. There's a difference in benefits. How do we find a location that accommodate everyone? Now, I want to point out that the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, we have the most advanced 911 system. We are next generation 911. We have text. You can text 911. Most advanced, and that was something we pushed because that's what the community asked for. The community asked me in 2019, why can't I text 911? And we move forward with that, and you can do that. We have the most advanced. So we're working with Jacksonville to try to work together. And I want to point out that during the tornadoes last year, Jacksonville's 911 center went down.
And we were hit by the tornado. Yeah.
Well, we were dispatching for them, and they're in a storm building, so the building didn't come down, but their system couldn't operate. And we were dispatching for them. And we were working, the state recommends that you put a committee together, represent the sheriff's office, the police department, your fire departments, everyone and people from the community to come together and figure out what's the location of the 911 center. Because there's some distance between Jacksonville and our office on Roosevelt Road. Right. But the county judge decided that he's just going to move it to Jacksonville. And he signs an MOU with Jacksonville that says Jacksonville's going to take over the 911 dispatch for the county, and they're just going to reimburse them. So that means 20 employees I have are going to lose their jobs. And there's been no conversation with them. There's been no conversation with us about there's a difference between dispatching in Jacksonville and dispatching in Pulaski County. We have over 15 volunteer fire departments that we dispatch for. There's a difference in responding to calls in the unincorporated areas than in Jacksonville. There's a lot of dynamics that you have to work through. And while the Jacksonville 911 staff there, they have a job and they will maintain a job, my employees have received an email from HR downtown telling them that they need to apply for another job. They can apply for a job in Jacksonville or maybe Little Rock 911 Center. They're not guaranteed a job, and that wasn't necessary to do it like that. When we were working on this, the thought was everyone's going to have a job, and they're going to be transferred. We have supervisors who will no longer be supervisors. We have dispatchers that are going to get a cut in pay to go there, and plus have to drive from, instead of being on Roosevelt, having to drive all the way to Jacksonville. There's no consideration for the employees, and I'm disappointed in the process of excluding the community from the engagement. Even when I talked to the county attorney about this process, he wasn't at liberty to tell me what was going on. We didn't know it was moving to Jacksonville till a press release came out last year that they're moving to Jacksonville, and then a notice came out this week to our employees telling them that they just need to be prepared to apply for another job. I think that's not taking into consideration of the people of Pulaski County, the people we serve, and how we reach them through our 911 center. We have a great team in our 911 center. When AT&T system went down almost statewide, it was our 911 operators that figured out a end around to get to the 911 calls and they reached out to other 911 centers to let them know how to get around to be able to call people who are trying to reach us. That's the quality of the people we have working in that center. A state-of-the-art system that we have, and none of that has been taken into consideration. And I think that's it impacts employees and it impacts the services that's going to be provided to Pulaski County. And I hope the quorum court will step up and stop this from happening. While the judge can make a decision, but there's some fundings that has to go along with the movement. And I hope the quorum court will step up and slow this down. While the state says we have to have this done by January of next year, you can get an extension. We've talked to them about the extension to just work out all the details. Get the right people at the table to talk about the details of how do you make this happen. This isn't just an arbitrary decision to say we're going to just take the money and Jacksonville, we'll just pay you to dispatch. There's more involved in that. And they're going to put them all in the same room. And you can't have two 911 systems, two different dispatching Pulaski County Sheriff's Office and dispatch plus fire, volunteer fire, and Jacksonville dispatching. When you have emergencies happen, it gets loud in those centers,
right.
and you can have emergencies going on in the city of Jacksonville and in the county, and have SWAT teams going out and fires going on all at the same time, and they're all going to be in the same room. They're not having conversations with the people they need to talk to.
Okay. Again, if you're just joining us, we are talking with our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins. We're going to be back to address more of the Netflix special that's coming up and when it's going to debut on Netflix and get the sheriff's opinion on that. We've got all of that coming up, and Sheriff's got to get out of here, so we're going to be wrapping up with the sheriff around 8:30 this morning, so we'll be getting him out of here. Back live, and we want to thank our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins, for joining us this morning. There's a big Netflix special that's coming up. It debuts on April 10th. 46 inmates are left unguarded in our Pulaski County Jail, and it's to see if they can manage themselves. And Sheriff stopped by. We talked about it a little bit on Friday, but there were some other things that he wanted to talk about. We've talked a little bit about the 911 call center that's getting ready to possibly move. We also talked about his reentry program, and we talked a lot about mental illness and getting enough people that are specialists in mental health to help with people that are incarcerated in our Pulaski County Jail. Sheriff, as we get ready to let you go, and I want to again thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with us this morning. Anything else that you want to address? And we talked about people out there knowing a little more now of how they can get things done for family members, loved ones, someone that may have been incarcerated, is talking with their justice of the peace. And if you're going to be talking with those justice of the peace, these are some of the things that we need to kind of get our people that are getting out of the system back on the road to where they can be productive citizens in our communities. And you've kind of evaluated this. You're a specialist in it. You've been in law enforcement for a number of years. So you work very hard, and you're using the holistic approach. But anything in closing that you want to definitely leave our listeners with, and our people, if they want to talk to the justice of the peace about things in our county that you'd like for them to do to help you continue the work that you've done?
I think it's important that they do reach out to the justice of the peace to let them know that you're concerned about these issues. You're concerned about mental health in the facility, that they are getting the services that they need in the facility, no different than help for diabetes or anything else. I think it's important that they understand the 911 center, the movement, the impact it's going to have, and need to slow down and really to consider those issues. And I do want to point out in the Netflix series that while they say they're unguarded, we implemented a indirect supervision where the deputy's on the outside of the unit and they're monitoring with cameras and all that. So it's not that we've closed down or moved everybody out. It's we just changed the way we monitor the unit. And we did implement some things that we think can benefit the entire facility, can change the way we do business, the way we do jails. And I think that in the end of the day, because I've seen all of it, in the end of the day, that you'll better understand what we can do, how we can do things differently, and I think it humanizes people, and I think that is so important because as long as you look at them, people in our jail, as criminals or other, not human, then you don't care about how you treat them. And I think we have to care about these individuals. These are moms and dads. These are sons and daughters that are in our facility, and we have a responsibility for their care.
What would you say to those people then? We heard Judge Hyde said it. He's gotten calls from people saying it's going to put a black eye on the city, and it's also going to take us back to Banging in Little Rock all over again with one of these specials on television. You've seen all 6 episodes, and your thoughts on it?
Absolutely not. It will not. It's not Banging in Little Rock. It is something that humanizes people,
Right.
and it shows you can do something different. And some people don't like to take care of people in jail. They want to punish them. They want to chain them up and put them under the ground.
Right.
That's not the right thing to do. And we know that we need to treat people with respect. We need to help people. They're in our care. We're responsible for them. And a lot of people claim to be Christians or religious people, but when it comes to people in jail, they don't care how they're treated, and they don't care what they get to eat. And I think we have to change that attitude. Let your faith be real.
Amen. Well, if you didn't know, Sheriff kind of gave us a rundown on it. And if you're just driving by Roosevelt Belt, you look over there, it doesn't look like, for me it didn't, that there are actually 1,300 people actually could be housed there in that facility. And that's quite a bit of people. And that's why you mentioned that we definitely need help when it comes to mental health, and people talking to their JPs about the importance of getting more mental health workers in the facility to try to help these people and getting back into society again. And then congratulations to you on the reentry program, and especially what it's doing to help people get back and get out on track again. But I want to personally thank you again for taking the time to talk with us this morning, sharing all this information. And save that date. It's April 10th on Netflix, and you'll see it. It's called Unguarded, and it's about our Pulaski County Jail and our Pulaski County Sheriff, Sheriff Eric Higgins. Sheriff, thank you so much for talking with us this morning.
All right. Appreciate your time.
All right.